Tenet. If I could sum it up in a sentence, the film is about a guy who goes on a time bent mission to try to prevent World War III. But that doesn't even do the synopsis justice, and doesn't even begin to really grasp what's going on in the film. There is so much more going on. We're not dealing with nuclear weapons in this case. We're dealing with the usage of the physics of entropy and time travel in order to prevent the end of the world from occurring. The movie works as a puzzle, which is typical coming from the film's director and screenwriter Christopher Nolan. And if you're familiar with his other movies like Memento, Inception, and Interstellar, you would be able to draw correlations between them all. But I felt like this one was much, much more complex and mind bending compared to his other works. There were moments in the film that kind of felt like they didn't make sense, and then a couple of scenes later, you kind of have this oh moment where it slowly begins to piece itself together, kind of. I feel like the movie would require multiple viewings to really get a firm grasp on everything that happened. I'm the type of person that takes time to understand really complex ideas, and although I usually love these complex things in film, I usually enjoy films that deal more with symbolism and human nature rather than theoretical concepts. But even if you don't understand everything that's happening, or if you feel confused a lot of the time, you still will find yourself entertained. But let me be clear, despite the confusion of the movie, Christopher Nolan always knows what he is doing. It really takes a certain person to craft these unique concepts together to form movie puzzles like he does. And again, if you're a fan of his work, this type of film will not surprise you in terms of what to expect. Um, although there were some parts of the film I found the premise and concept unique, and the ideas alone worth the movie ticket. I feel like there were some things in particular in the film that kind of had a few cliches that were typical of like the time travel sci-fi spy genre. Without spoiling, the film's time travel rules kind of seem to be akin to Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban film and the TV series Lost. Kind of echoing that whatever happened, happened. And I feel like the concept of time and how it works was much more complicated compared to like Avengers Endgame, where Bruce Banner and the Ancient One lay it out for us. Here in Tenet, we have to figure it out along the way. As the main character, only known as the protagonist, does. During the film, the characters are often saying to the protagonist, asking him, "Does that make sense?" or "Do you understand?" And me as a moviegoer just like wanted to shout, "No, I don't understand." And sometimes I would look up and I would see the expression on the protagonist's face, and it seemed like he didn't fully understand either. But it's like he was slowly beginning to as the film went on, which is exactly how we felt. So it's just like we are seeing things through the eyes and feelings of the protagonist as the story goes on, slowly beginning to piece things together, just as he does. John David Washington plays the protagonist, and I personally found his performance a little underwhelming at times and unbelievable, which really surprised me. Especially because one of his more recent performances was in the movie Black Klansman, which I thought he was absolutely phenomenal in. Um, it was also cool seeing Robert Pattinson in a Christopher Nolan film. I felt like he is doing well to establish himself as an actor and try and break away from the Twilight spotlight. Um, Overall, the characters and the actors themselves did a pretty great job. Um, the editing and the effects are really strong, especially during scenes where there are things going in reverse. Because it deals with time travel, the way they edited it, the way they planned it all. It's just really cool to look at, and you can really admire and appreciate the detail that went into planning everything. The music and sound effects are typical of a Christopher Nolan film. You sometimes hear that music sound effect that goes boom, boom, and but sometimes the sound can be a little overpowering with the dialogue, but for the most part, the dialogue comes out pretty clear. There is a scene that I really like in the movie where the protagonist is fighting with an unknown masked soldier, and throughout the scene, it's almost like their steps and movements are matched like perfectly performed dance choreography. It kind of reminds me of the hallway fight in Inception, but not as iconic. But still, definitely very exciting and cool to watch. But to sum it all up, I feel like if you are a fan of Christopher Nolan's previous work, this will be quite an enjoyable film. That kind of lives up to the hype. But if you're new to his world, you are going to leave the theater feeling confused and frustrated. But as the one of the characters in the movie, Laura, says in the film, don't try to understand it, feel it. Which is a good way to sum up. Once you have enough patience to unpack all that's happening and can unpeel all the layers, there really is a well solid story to behold. But for me personally, it wasn't Christopher Nolan's best. I give this film 3 stars.